Hello students, welcome back to project number 2. This is the wipeout process part 1. This is the final image that I've come up with, and in this painting we're going to go through and do a wipeout process to create our image. This is my still life setup and my easel right next to each other. So we are going to start with and use only burnt umber paint. So we're not going to use any other colors, just the paint. And the first thing what we need to do is mix our paint with some Neo-Meg and coat our canvas. So do that imprimatura, which means you're toning the canvas. So I'm going to mix that up with my palette knife right here, and I'm going to use that to cover the whole panel with a darker brown color. Your hands can get a little messy. You're going to need a rag for sure and a brush. So here we go. We're going to turn it over to the canvas. And the idea of the process is that you're going to put down a dark, and when you need white, you wipe away the paint, and when you need it dark, you add more. So this first part here, I'm just going through and adding in all the paint on from the palette knife, and then I'll spread it around with some medium and my brush and a rag. You don't want it to be too thin as you start to put it down, but you also don't want it to be too thick. If it's too thick, you're going to tell it looks like there's jelly all over the surface of the painting. What we're looking for is a nice dark color. You can kind of see through it a little bit, but not too much. And you want to make sure that you cover the whole canvas, top to bottom, left to right. So I'm just kind of finishing here at the very bottom. Sometimes I'll even pull my canvas out like this from the bottom just so that I can get to the bottom edge and keep it consistent. So now I have that all toned up. I'm going to start what we call the sgraffito process. So you're not going to use your brush on the bristle side. You're going to flip it around and use the back edge of your brush. So when you use the back edge of your brush, what you're doing is you're drawing with this onto the canvas. So you can see me going through drawing all these different lines to represent the can here. And it's going to be like a scratch drawing. And what you're going to be able to do is you're going to see it. It's not going to be super bright. As you can kind of see in the video, doesn't stand out a lot. You're going to be able to see it better in life than on a camera, obviously. And the thicker you go, probably the easier it is to see, but that actually means the more that you have to wipe away later. So I do not recommend leaving too much paint on the canvas to wipe away. You want some, but not too much. Here we are just finishing up the last little bits of the sgraffito drawing, and then we're going to start the wipeout process. So I'm going to put down the brush, and I'm going to grab my t-shirt, my cut up t-shirt rag, and what I'm going to start to do is wipe away the paint where I see it as being white. Wherever it's bright, you can see I'm pushing down, and I've got to hold the canvas. You're not going to be able to do this just kind of not touching anything and keeping your hands 100% clean. You're going to have to touch the paint at some point. I just put my finger inside the canvas so I can kind of pull out a little extra. The more pressure I put on it, the more paint I put on it, and I want to keep turning my t-shirt over to get a clean edge. If I don't get clean edges every so often, you're going to start to smear the paint around, and you're not going to get the effect that you're looking for. One other thing that happens in this wipeout process is it's okay if you start to smudge it a little bit more than you think. You don't wipe out the exact correct size. You're going to see me kind of go back and try to pull a little extra out in some places and make it lighter. This is something that you do need to do in one session for the whole painting. And the reason is because you can only wipe away while it's wet. Once it dries, you cannot wipe away that paint. It's going to be done. So I've done all this. I've got a basic wipeout. Now I'm going to switch over and use an eraser. So I have a hard white eraser that's inside a pen. It's called Tough Stuff. What I actually would recommend, and I didn't have it when I shot this, but I have since went and gotten some, is your kneaded eraser. So you take a little piece of your kneaded eraser, pull it off, and use that to wipe away. You'll use it for this painting, and then you'll just throw that eraser away when you're done. And what you're going to find is that's going to be able to pull away quite a bit more paint. So I'm going to keep struggling trying to pull away paint as I go through. The beauty of the tool that I have is I'm going to get a nice hard line. And every time I pull that off of the edge, you're going to see me, I'm actually wiping off the paint from the eraser. If your eraser gets really dirty, what you do is you just knead it and pull it, stretch it. It'll get clean again. You don't want to use the whole eraser. Just use a chunk, a small chunk. So this is going to be the end of part one. We're going to pull away a little bit more paint, and then we'll get started adding in the darks and kind of redrawing with the brown paint, burnt umber.